Hello and welcome to my new business chat show, the chat show to spark or fuel your own business thoughts. Now, as the entrepreneur's mentor, I support other business owners to start, develop, market, scale or grow their own business. And this is my third series of my podcast, and I can't wait to continue introducing you to some fantastic guests. Now, with my guests in this series, we explore the startup journey and their experiences that I know will help you with your own first enterprise, either developing in your early years or even running a more established business. And for today's chat, I'd love to introduce to you Fiona Jones, who helps Thames Valley owners of VAT registered based limited companies have clarity and control over their business finances. Hi Fiona.
Hi Mike, how are you?
All good, thank you. Thank you very much for joining me and sharing your journey and experience with the listeners. First of all, just tell us a little bit more about Fiona and the business.
Okay, so our company is Numberwork Services. We predominantly a bookkeeping and payroll practice. We're based in Newbury. Our focus is on helping small business owners just get that clarity, insight, up-to-date information about what is happening with the day-to-day finances of their business. So we're a team of 6 plus myself. So I've got 5 part-time bookkeepers working for me, and I've got a new admin assistant who's starting next week. And our focus is on, like you said at the beginning, VAT registered, service-based, limited companies. Ideally in the Thames Valley, because that's where I'm based, but actually we have clients kind of as far north as Nottingham, across to kind of London, and then down on the south coast as well. So, cool. You know, these days you don't have to be in the same location as your clients.
Certainly when they're as good as you in terms of using the technology from that side of it. And, you know, many of the listeners will know that I used to be involved in the bookkeeping world with my own business, and then a couple of associations of membership organisations for bookkeepers, and I know the reputation you have, so I'm looking forward to what you have to share with our members. Now I'm going to take you right back to step number 1. So when you started your first business, or the business if you like,
yeah.
What was the driver? Why did you start a business?
Okay, so my journey into starting a business is probably different to some of the other people you've maybe spoken to before. I wasn't doing this before. It's not like I worked in an accountancy practice or bookkeeping practice, was doing the job and thought I want to go and do this for myself. I spent a long time working as a training manager. I had my kids, had a horrible commute, and basically wanted to do something else. Didn't want to keep kind of doing that grind, if you like. My husband was commuting to London 5 days a week as well. We knew that my eldest would start school, and it was a case of one of us wanted to be around. So I looked back at kind of what I'd always enjoyed, what I'd been good at, always really good at maths at school. Did business for GCSE A-level degree, and the finance accounting side was the thing that always kind of resonated with me. That was the subject I really enjoyed. And I was looking around, and my husband just one day kind of said, "Have you thought about bookkeeping?" And I was like, "Oh, that's a really good idea." Had a look, found the ICB, looked at what the different options were, decided to just crack on and get qualified as quickly as I possibly could, really. And then I kind of see the journey as twofold, really, because I think for a number of years, I was a sole trader, had a number of clients, had a couple of subcontractors working for me on and off, and it was very much to fit around family. And then my kids got older, as they do. Their needs change. They like to spend most of their time on their mobile phones, or, you know, in their bedrooms or doing whatever. We moved house as well, and I kind of felt the time was right to kind of take that next step, actually. And I knew I wanted to hire, so I made that transition from sole trader to limited company. Took on a member of staff, then that first member of staff didn't quite go to plan. Rehired, found 2 people, and I couldn't decide between. So hired them both, kind of sat there, crunched the numbers and was like, I reckon I can afford it. And that's been the best thing I ever done, because that's been able to then free me up to focus on everything else that I need to do to grow the business.
Brilliant. Thank you for that overview. That's a great time. I'm going to pick up on some of those points as we go through. I know that you, like you say, you did your training with the Institute Certified Bookkeepers, and I know you're a fellow of that as well now, so a respected member of that community. Tell me about the first sort of couple of weeks in business then. So you're doing your qualifications, you've set the business up, you're there now, it's right, now I've got to find some clients. What was the emotions like and the activity like at that time?
Yeah, I don't really remember the emotions. I don't know, it feels like so long ago. It was back in like 2012. I think I was so focused on the training. I think it was important to have the qualifications to back it up. I think there's a lot of people out there who call themselves a bookkeeper who maybe have just, done their husband's accounts on the side or something like that. So I think it was important to be able to have that distinguishing factor of having the qualifications. I focused on getting a website, coming up with a company name, logo. I think I probably even did some leaflet dropping around where I lived at the time. Because I didn't really know at that point like what clients I wanted to work with or anything. And I was like, there'll be loads of tradespeople, you see the vans and things, leaflet drop, whatever. And started to look for networking groups as well, I think. And that's probably the initial kind of steps, was that, getting the name, the website, thinking about how I was going to get the clients.
Yeah, cool. And interestingly, you've gone on a journey in terms of employing people, and one of the things you just mentioned, which I think would be quite interesting for the listeners, is you crunched the numbers in terms of your employees. Tell us a little bit more about that sort of thought process and what numbers you crunched to feel confident to make that move, because that's a big thing for a lot of early stage businesses.
Yeah, so I think I looked at, I guess in my business, I'm very focused on monthly recurring revenue. So there will be a lot of businesses who will maybe have one-off invoices, project-based work. So their revenue will be very up and down. Ours is very repetitive, if you like. So if we take a client on, we're working with them every month. Even if the volume's not very high and we might do the work quarterly, we're still going to be pricing that over the year and charging them monthly. So I think I would have looked at what's my monthly recurring revenue, what are my kind of outgoing expenditure, what can I afford to pay them, how many hours are they going to work, and then what's that going to do to my profit and my profit margin. And working out, I was like, yeah, it's going to be tight, but if I don't take that risk and I don't take that step and hire both of them, I won't then be able to free my time up to focus on everything else that I needed to do. So, and they were very different as well. One of them was, they both still work for me, 2.5 years later, but the one's very qualified, the other one had a lot of on-the-job experience but no qualifications, and we supported her getting her level 2 and her level 3 ICB.
Brilliant. And I know you do a lot as a team. I've seen the events you've been to as a team and all that sort of stuff. And what I love about you, what you've just said there, is you crunch the numbers to be able to make a calculated decision, but it looks like you made an investment decision over a cost decision. In terms of, I think many young businesses, they fear about the investment, how much it's going to cost me, is it, what's the risk, etc., rather than the potential it can make. You mentioned that you hire 5 part-time people. Is there a particular reason why you hire part-time people rather than full-time people?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I've had other people ask that as well. I think predominantly I worked effectively part-time hours before. My hours are still, they're flexible. They probably are kind of nearer full-time. It suits a lot of the people who are applying for this kind of role. Part-time suits them because, I don't want to make sweeping generalizations, but there are a lot of people with children. So not all of my staff, but some of my staff have kids. So it fits around their lifestyle. Also, I think from a cover perspective, covering clients, because we're all part-time, it's easier to cover if someone's on holiday. So that model works quite well for us. Whereas if I had one full-time person, but everyone else was part-time, then that person needs to go on holiday. We're really stuck trying to cover their client work. So I'm always trying to look at how do we make sure all the clients are covered regardless of who is working.
I love that. That's exactly the same as my business model. My business model is all part-timers, and the other thing I always enjoyed about part-time workers is that if I wanted to scale to the next person, my part-time team could always do a few extra hours themselves. That would give me enough capacity to then take them back to their normal hours, but have enough hours to employ the next person. So it gave me a comfortable scale position as well. You mentioned that the first hire didn't go to plan, and for many startup businesses, the first hire doesn't go to plan. Whether that's our own experience in terms of the recruiting, or obviously bad luck sometimes, but that can sometimes send a new business owner, young business owner, spiraling, and I'm never going to hire again. So tell us about your sort of thought process after that. When you got rid of that person and you thought, okay, were you ready to hire again straight away, or did that hit you a bit?
No, I think I cracked on. I used it as an opportunity to look at, okay, what did we get wrong in the hiring process? What do I need to look at changing to get the right people? And I did a lot around the job advert and the job description to focus more on our values as a business, because I think maybe that didn't come through before. Because if the values are clear, then you're going to attract the right kind of people. And I found it this time in particular, where I've hired an admin person who's starting next week, the number of candidates who said, I read the job description and it really resonated with me. Your values align with my values. Now, whether they were just saying that to do well at the interview, I don't know. But I feel that the skills side and the technical knowledge and whatever, there's elements of that you can train. But if someone doesn't have the right behaviour to fit into your organisation, that's a lot harder to get someone to change. So you want to find someone who's going to fit in and work in the way that you want to work.
100%. Again, totally agree with that. Love that. Brilliant. So let's go back to your journey. What's been the thing that you've enjoyed most about being an entrepreneur, being a business owner?
I think growing the pride in growing a business and growing a team. I think that gives me quite a good sense of achievement, sense of satisfaction. And then the other thing, I think we love helping people. We have some clients who are quite numbers savvy, but we get a lot of people who come to us who are just, they don't understand. You could put P&L in front of them and they wouldn't know what on earth it was you were showing them. So being able to kind of get that into a language that they can understand and just help them get an idea of what's happening in their business, it's something I really enjoy.
Interesting. So is there a particular element of their numbers that they don't understand in terms of profit and loss balance sheet or particular makeup, or is it just overall that they don't understand?
I think if you've never had that kind of finance training and you're not particularly great with numbers, the difference between a profit and loss and a balance sheet for a start, like some people even, don't know what the difference is. There's a story, isn't there? Richard Branson didn't know what the difference between gross and net profit for absolutely donkey's years. But the key is having someone who does know the difference, who can tell you kind of, what goes where and where you're spending your money and are you spending it in the right way.
I used to see numerous classical examples of people who just post anything on their accounting software. In my day, it was Sage. Obviously, Xero seems to be the player at the moment. But people would post something thinking they'd posting it on their profit and loss account, and it was actually posting it on their balance sheet and distorting their profits, etc. Would there be a tip that you'd give to a listener that's thinking about starting a business or in their early years about understanding their numbers or getting their numbers in a particular format?
It would be remiss of me to come on here and not to say outsource your bookkeeping from the start. I think that would be one of the first tips. I see so many business owners who, even turning over $1 million, could still be doing their own bookkeeping. And exactly like you said, posting things to the balance sheet that should be on the P&L or vice versa. I guarantee if you're doing it yourself, you won't be getting your VAT correct. So yeah, that would be the one thing. But getting help from someone who can help you understand those numbers and making sure you've got good systems and processes in place for dealing with those finances. So from managing all your paperwork, getting that processed, paying your suppliers, getting paid by your customers. We quite often get people who come to us, their business has grown, they've got to a really good size. The one thing that they have lost control of is who owes them money and their outstanding debt. And I think that's one of the key things that you really need to keep on top of as a business owner. And I think, again, without making sweeping generalizations, we don't like talking about money in this country, and we find it very difficult to have that conversation. So it's often we're too nice and we let people not pay. So it's very easy as a business owner to go, well, they're a friend, or they've been a client for a long time, or whatever. But if you've got someone else who's dealing with that for you, it takes that personal element out of that situation, and it makes it much easier for you to get paid. And quite often we find payment terms are too long, for example. So helping people get the right payment terms and the right systems in place to get paid.
Yeah, I love that. I love that as a tip because I totally resonate with that and see that a lot of time in the world of business in terms of people don't want to chase their money that's due to them because they don't want to upset the relationship they've got with a customer. Yeah. I always remember one of my old mentors saying to me, "A good customer is only one that pays." So ultimately from there, and I don't know if it's easy to recollect something right now, but is there something that over your, we just talked about what you enjoyed in your journey. Is there something that you don't enjoy being a business owner or an entrepreneur?
I think probably if you'd asked me that question a couple of years ago, I probably would have said like the sales and marketing side. It's I'm a numbers person. I'm not
technician. Yep.
I'm not one of that's not always been something that has come naturally. I think I've always been good at building relationships with people that I first meet. But I think understanding the value that we deliver as a business and that we deliver to our clients, and then being able to articulate that is something that I probably found quite difficult to start with. And that's something I think a little better. So that definitely that challenge of how to get the right messaging
in, brilliant, to attract the right people, because again, and I totally agree, you are a people person, and when I first met you on the networking circuit, there was a sort of a warmth and a connection straight away from that side of it. But I think you're right. I think people tend to just try and get any business, and particularly in the business, the bookkeeping world. When I ran the membership organisations, I'd meet a lot of people, and their first client was their nightmare client, because probably that client that they picked up was somebody who was been sacked by somebody else, and therefore they were then taking up all their time, and then they didn't have time to do the sales and marketing from that perspective. Brilliant. So
it's hard though, because when you start in business, you need the revenue, and you don't necessarily know who you want to work with until you've got some experience of that. So it's really difficult, because I think you can go in at the beginning, can't you? Go, right, that's my target client, but sometimes you need to experience the bad ones or the types of businesses that you don't enjoy to know that is not where you want to go.
It shapes your avatar. 100% it shapes your avatar. And obviously your journey as a business owner has evolved from being a solopreneur to now being a leader and a manager of your team. How easy was that journey for you, and what made it easy for you to feel comfortable in delegating and trusting people to work for you?
I think probably in my previous career, so before I ran my own business, I'd managed people in previous jobs. So particularly through like my 20s, early 30s, I've got that experience of kind of managing a team, delegating, so it maybe came a little bit more naturally to that than it might have done for other people who've just gone and started their business and not kind of had experience of that. It's still hard, you know, as a business owner, you tend to be a control freak, and being able to let go and trust other people to do the job is really hard, but you have to make sure that you've got the right people in your team that you can trust, that you can delegate those things to.
That's a great summary, because I think, you know, an entrepreneurial trait is particularly control and perfectionism, and delegation therefore becomes difficult. Trust can sometimes be difficult, but you're right, you get the right people, right aligned with your values, as you've said in your own job offering. You've been highlighting that, so people get connected to you in the business, then that makes that feel much more comfortable. And what would Fiona say to a younger self? So you're just about to start your business. What would you say back to yourself about your business journey?
Well, that's a difficult question, isn't it? I don't know really, because I think you need to go through the ups and downs and the highs and lows, because you need that experience to kind of shape who you are, build your resilience, learn from those mistakes and things like that. I guess probably the only thing I would say is to believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So let's flip it to your business then, because obviously your business, in terms of what it is you do on a day-by-day basis, as you've alluded to already, can help startups. It can help young business owners. If I was a startup coming into your office today and saying, okay, I need your help, what should I do? What would be your sort of tips, if you like, that I need to do as a new startup owner?
So you literally just started your business?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'd want to find out what your goals were. So what's the shape of that business going to look like? So where are you now? Kind of how many clients have you got already? Are we literally at zero? Or actually, if things are growing really quickly, you know, in 3 months, do we need to look at VAT registration straight away? Those kind of things. I would be looking at what software have you got set up? Do we need to set that up for you? How do you get all your paperwork in from your suppliers? How do we then get that so that we can process it, get it into your accounting software? What systems do you have for managing that? Things I talked about before again. How are you going to be invoicing your customers? How do you want them to pay you? How quickly do you want them to pay you? Are you going to be hiring staff? All those kind of those HMRC registrations that need to be looked at, making sure if that's not in place, does that need to be put in place? You know, are you going to hit the VAT registration threshold? Do we need to be monitoring that for you?
Right.
Yeah.
So if I've outsourced my bookkeeping to you, and I totally agree with what you said earlier. I would encourage every business owner to outsource their bookkeeping, predominantly because there's other tasks that they can focus on, and the importance of getting those numbers right. You know, I was talking to a client this morning who was not confident in their P&L, and therefore couldn't make decisions in their business. Yeah. But you've done my bookkeeping for me now. You've produced a set of reports for me, my profit and loss, my balance sheet. What should I be looking at in terms of a business owner? What should I be looking at in terms of those numbers that you're presenting to me?
So I would be looking at, again, depends on the nature of your business. So is it very lumpy? So we have one client, his revenue is quite lumpy. So actually we only look at stuff on a quarterly basis, because monthly figures don't give him a clear picture.
Yep.
So looking at the revenue, how's the revenue tracking? Then I'd be looking at those kind of direct expenses. So depending on the type of business, so we work with a lot of service-based businesses. So generally they're not going to have a cost of sales as such, but they might have some direct expenses. Making sure that everything that you're paying for on behalf of your customers, that you're charging those customers for. Then I'd be looking at the overheads, and then we'd be looking at the profit figure at the bottom and working out, okay, what's that profit margin look like? But then for a lot of our clients, we're giving them estimations of, okay, so what does that mean for your corporation tax? A rough kind of guide. How much do you need to be putting aside? Because the number of people who don't plan for that. So we'll be giving you a regular update. Okay, your VAT is currently looking at this for the quarter. Corporation tax, you need to put this aside, or set up standing orders if you know. So for my own business, because I look at monthly recurring revenue, I just I have a standing order, and every month a certain amount goes into a pot for my VAT. So when my VAT bill comes around, I've already got the money to pay it.
Love that. So you're not just educating people; you're doing it in practice, which is very evident. And you're right. A lot of businesses don't do the tax estimation for corporation tax or VAT or personal tax if they're not a company, and then it trips them up in terms of cash flow, or it's distorting their business in the interim. So we're just coming towards the end of this podcast today. Is there any final tips that you'd give to anybody in an early stage business?
I would, and this might be a bit of a funny one, I don't know. I would look at where are you going to get your support as a business owner, because it can be quite lonely if you're a business owner. There's certain things you can't always talk to your team about, or your friends maybe are all employed. They won't necessarily understand what it's like to run your own business. And maybe your partner is in the same situation. They don't understand either. So finding somewhere where you can get support, and having a group of people that you can share ideas with, or whether that's in the same industry or not the same industry. I have some great networks of people who are accountants and bookkeepers. And we all support each other, and we can share ideas, and we can discuss whether it's technical queries, pricing queries, or anything else around our businesses. I was on last week I was away all week with a group of accountants and bookkeepers on a kind of, we called it a retreat, but it was a working week. And I think it's really important that you find your tribe, find people who can support you as you go through that journey.
Love that. And what's the next step for Fiona and Numberwork Services?
That's a really good question. We're still growing. We've taken on some bigger businesses recently, so we've got a couple of those about to come on board, and it's really nice. We've got really good spread. Businesses turning over, small sole trader turning over 25, 50k, up to some businesses turning over between 1 to 5 million. So we've got a really good spread, and being able to make a difference in those bigger businesses because they've just had someone, excuse my language, but someone shit doing the job before. Yeah, 100%. Brilliant. Well, if they want to find a good bookkeeper or have a conversation with someone, how do they find you, Fiona, and the business? So I'm on LinkedIn. We've got our website, which is numberworkservices.co.uk. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, but they're not necessarily my go-to platforms. But if you look up Numberwork Services, you will find us. Awesome, brilliant. That's been fantastic. You've shared a load of personal journey information that I'm sure is going to be valuable to the listeners. You've obviously shared your expertise with us today, which will be valuable for anybody tuning into this, and I'd certainly recommend people to listen back to this podcast a couple of times to pick up some of the small parts but big messages that you've been sharing. So thank you for joining me today and sharing that news. You're welcome. It was lovely to come and have a chat. Thank you.
Cheers, Fiona. Well, thank you again for tuning in for this latest episode of the New Business Chat Show. I'll be back next time with my next guest. I'll tell you when.